Hey guys, VicHD here. Happy New Year! Um, hey, I was kind of on the fence about doing this type of video, so I might as well just get it out of the way to see if anyone's interested. This is going to be a director's commentary breakdown video of Mortal Kombat Mishaps XXL. So this is going to be based on the 30 scenes that I developed over the past 6 years. And so I wanted to give you like my insight as to like what kind of inspired some of these gags here and there. So without further ado, let's get this out of the way.
Finish him.
Hey, time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go.
Right, as you can see, this was a reference to a game called Crazy Taxi. This was a popular game that existed back in the Dreamcast era. Back in that generation when it was Dreamcast, it was Xbox, it was PlayStation 2, it was GameCube. The game is essentially you're a taxi driver and you have to take your customer from point A to point B as the fastest way possible, and you have to cut corners, take shortcuts, and risk crashing your vehicle by doing these crazy maneuvers in the car. And the reason why I made it was because I was really hooked on playing Crazy Taxi 1 and 2, especially considering how I had a Dreamcast at the time. Um, I traded my N64 games, most of my games, with my cousin over a Dreamcast. And I did enjoy the console. The problem is that I ended up burning one too many CDs for it, and I eventually, well, the lens died on me, unfortunately, and there really wasn't much I could do to revive it at this point. So, unfortunately, things just don't last forever. Yeah, so that's kind of like the main reason, and I wanted to see if I could test the waters to see if people were legit interested in me making another set of Mortal Kombat mishaps, because the previous four that I made, which are bundled up as Mortal Kombat Mishaps Ultimate, they have achieved a cult following over the years. So I figured I would just probably develop a few more just for kicks, right? So that was like the main starting point for this project.
Johnny Cage wins. Fatality.
Of course, had to reference The Offspring because The Offspring was constantly playing throughout the game, Crazy Taxi. There's also another band that plays throughout that game. I forget what it was called, but regardless, if you're very curious about the game, I highly recommend it. I recommend the first three games. Those are the best ones. Not really sure about the PSP port. That was kind of mixed, but at best, like the first three.
Finish him. Scorpion wins. Friendship.
Okay, for context, I was looking into the Mortal Kombat Pavilion. Oh, sorry, not the Mortal Kombat Pavilion, the Mortal Kombat Warehouse, which is the website where I usually get most of my sprites, usually get the image fonts. And I started noticing how there was like a particular pattern when it comes to the ninjas here, the Lin Kuei, or I'm not sure what the lore is exactly, but anyway. Um, of course, because of the public outcry that caused Mortal Kombat 1 with all the fatalities, they included the friendships, and they literally decided to toy around by introducing the whole concept of friendships. And in this case, they wanted to promote their action figures, their dolls. So I was just thinking to myself at one point, what if the dolls end up being like killer dolls? So the first thing that came to my mind was like the movie Child's Play. You know, the character Chucky. And those who grew up in the 70s and 80s know that the movie Child's Play is a bit of a cult classic. Yeah, I kind of had the whole idea of like, how come no one has done a killer doll joke? So I figured I'd just play around with it.
Friendship.
I'm not
And yeah, the audio clips I edited through Audacity. I raised the pitch. Those are actual sound recordings of Ed Boon yelling, "Get over here." So I increased the pitch to make it sound more toy-like, which actually worked. It helped sell the joke.
Finisher.
Okay, for context, has anyone ever seen the show Samurai Jack, the final season? Well, of course, that was based on one episode where Jack was with this character called Ashi, and Ashi, for those who aren't aware, is the daughter of Aku, one of the seven sisters. And they had this on-again, off-again toxic relationship initially. And during one particular scene, they were having this huge battle, like both of them trying to survive. They were like heavily breathing, looking at each other, and then they jump cut to a kiss. Like, it caught everyone so off guard. Sorry. Headphones fell off. But anyway, the whole joke is that. So, seeing how I saw that episode, and it just cracked me up. It cracked a lot of people up when that scene happened. I figured it would be like the best way to describe the relationship between Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, because how they managed to hook up, I don't know. But it is what it is. They hook up in Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11. Part of the lore, and that's why we have Cassie Cage as well, the daughter.
Oh,
It's official. Outstanding.
I should point out the song originally was a Dean Martin song, so I found a karaoke version. I was trying to find a MIDI version, but the karaoke version was the closest thing I could get. And I had to somehow sneak it in and be careful with the copyright bots here.
Johnny Cage wins. Babality.
you didn't just say that.
I am your daughter.
I mean, when I heard that in Mortal Kombat X, I had to find a way to use it. I mean, there's a comment that I think it was from Liu Kang, and story-wise, lore-wise, said something along the lines that Cassie had her mother's eyes and her father's mouth. Well, there you go. It's canon, kind of. And that, of course, being a Back to the Future reference, I mean, I couldn't resist. Seeing how there's a young Toasty and an old Toasty, there's a time paradox, I just had to make fun of that.
Finish him. Liu Kang.
Okay, for context, is anyone familiar with Guilty Gear? This was actually inspired by an actual finisher I saw when I was playing Guilty Gear XR'd. I mean, I did play a little bit of XR'd, a little bit of Strive, and I did eventually see the finishers that were on that were available on YouTube. And I noticed that Jacko, which is this young mischievous girl in the game, her finisher is a dive kick of doom. Like, she literally jumps to the stratosphere and just dives and pretty much blows you up with her kick. It was so ridiculously over the top and cartoony, I couldn't resist. I tried to replicate it as much as possible, and the first time I was actually editing it, I timed it so well, especially with that scream, that part where Johnny is screaming in horror, awaiting his doom. It just that pretty much was the cherry on top right there. And it worked so damn well.
Liu Kang wins. Fatality.
What a happy day!
And by the way, I fell in love with the Guilty Gear XR and Strive soundtrack. That kind of reintroduced me to the franchise, to the Guilty Gear intellectual property. And initially, I did play a little bit of it, but I think I got hooked once I started hearing the soundtrack with the vocals from from Naoki Hashimoto and Daisuke Shibutari, who did the most of the song composition. That's a huge feat, knowing that we're talking about the same guy who developed not just the gameplay, but also the music, the soundtrack. That's amazing.
Finish him.
This was a leftover joke from the older Mortal Kombat Mishaps. Initially, I would usually reference WWE stuff before, since I'm a big wrestling fan. And the only way I could actually get professional wrestlers, like from WrestleMania, the arcade game, was using the Super Nintendo version. The only annoying thing is that the Super Nintendo version didn't really have Yokozuna. So it was a little hard for me to actually find sprites for Yokozuna. I actually went to like this Mugen archive that actually had the sprites from the actual arcade game, and I was able to use some of those sprites for this scene. And I wanted to like emphasize basically the stage fatality of the original game, and I just wanted to add the Yokozuna being the one doing the Ultra Banzai drop, which is basically just sitting on your opponent's chest and basically breaking someone's ribs. As making it like an ultimate fatality, because this guy, I think at his heaviest, were probably like between 650 to 800 pounds according to sources. So yeah, this guy was huge, and this was like my little homage to Yokozuna, because he passed away like around he passed away in 2000, unfortunately. Considering how I've done like other parodies of other wrestlers. I did one with Shawn Michaels. I did a parody with John Cena. I did parodies with The Rock, The Undertaker. So I figured I would just, reference Yokozuna, because at the time they were also doing that A&E biography of the guy who portrayed the character. So it was just a reference to that as well.
Liu Kang wins. Fatality. Finish him.
Get over here! What? Stay there! What? Stay over there!
Scorpion shows mercy. Finish him.
Okay, for context, this was during the pandemic. I actually thought about this idea like during the early stages of the pandemic before the lockdown happened. And during this time, the idea kind of came to me when I was like in the middle of the classroom. I was an English teacher in high school here in Venezuela, and while the kids were taking their tests, I was kind of like brainstorming, like what type of it was either they were doing a test or they were doing like some kind of a classroom exercise that I assigned the kids to do. And what happened was that during that time, I was kind of brainstorming ideas, and then I remembered seeing an image that Ed Boon did about Scorpion wearing a surgical mask, and it said "stay over there" instead of "get over here." So I decided to like, there's a joke there. So my joke here was like, okay, it's during the pandemic, and let's make Scorpion a germaphobe, and that eventually just is part of the story.
Who hired this guy? What the fuck?
Baraka wins.
And he ends up dying of the virus.
Pathetic.
Now, initially, I did think about like putting a surgical mask on Scorpion, like replacing his yellow ninja mask. But at the end, I was like, nah, leave it as it is. It's just fine with that. But I did put it on Toasty though. And yes, I had to reference the coffin dance, which was very popular, and where I come from, we do seem to enjoy a lot of dark humor. I had to use another cover version of the song because I can't use the original song because I would get copyright claimed. This was a Sega Genesis remix that I found that was openly available to use. So thankfully I was able to use that one.
Finish him.
Okay, so this one, Screaming Cowboy Kang. It's like I wanted to like I was kind of like on the fence as to like what to call this one, either Screaming Cowboy Kang or Kang Kebab, because I figured if I called it Screaming Cowboy Kang, it would just give away the joke. But I figured, screw it, I might as well just call it Screaming Cowboy Kang. So the joke, as you can see, it was actually a reference to two particular things. It was the Big Enough video, and it was that episode of Dragon Ball involving Ninja Murasaki that, got that power pole up his ass, that purple ninja in the early episodes of Dragon Ball. So it was like two separate jokes. I eventually merged it into one. Also, another thing I should point out is that when I was actually editing the video, I was just editing the audio alone through Audacity. I was just picturing the scene in my head. I was tearing up with laughter with how bad it looked. Just picturing it. I never thought I would actually make it look so good, but it just turned out so freaking well. I loved it. Yeah, I wanted to add like insult to injury, considering how like he had the pole up his ass. What if he just did like these cartwheels and ends up like whacking Jade with her own pole, just knocking her off the bridge? I mean, the layers.
Kang wins. Fatality. That was pathetic.
Okay, for context, this was I'd like to include social commentary with my jokes. So this was during the whole Me Too movement, and I figured it would be pretty funny if if this scenario happened. Considering how like I think like 3 characters in Mortal Kombat have some sort of variation of the Kiss of Death. The ones I'm familiar with, of course, being Kitana, Sonya, and Melina. I've always wondered, like, what if there's one character that's immune to the Kiss of Death? And why not Jax? Sexual chocolate. So I figured that it would be him, and then he would, like, misinterpret the finisher as, like, someone that's actually being very flirty towards him. And then he gets a little too close, and Kitana eventually knees him in the groin. I was kind of, like, on the fence, like, would it be funny if he just falls from the nut shot? Or he no-sells it? I just decided to do a compromise where, like, he no-sells it and then he just collapses.
Jax wins. You suck. Kitana wins.
Keep fighting the good fight, Toasty. Hashtag MK2. Again, that's social commentary based on the Me Too movement. How that thing just kind of blew out of proportion. Oh, God. And speaking of which...
Finish him. Jax, finish him.
Okay, this was more... Though it does hint at social commentary, this was less about the political movement, less about the activist movement, and more about the spot the imposter trope. Now, full disclaimer, no people of color were harmed during the making of this parody. If that was the case, then the joke would have been a lot darker. Anyway, this was more like a parody of the whole spot the imposter trope. considering how like there's always that one scene where you see two identical characters that one is the original and the other one's the imposter, and there's always going to be that third person that's just pretty much holding the gun and is like, quick, say something that only I would know. At this point, I would like throw a monkey wrench at this joke and say, you know what, screw this, I'll just have like the real guy pummel him. Like, how dare you think that I'm an imposter? And also, he's military, dude. That's like pulling a gun at your officer. It's like you're at like a general. It's like, the hell are you doing, man? He goes, whoa, this got a little personal.
Finish him.
Okay, the idea behind this one was it was kind of like very spur of the moment, because I was looking at at Air Max fatalities in the Mortal Kombat warehouse, and I just noticed that they all sucked. It's like the developers kind of like threw their hands in the air saying, I give up, because they couldn't come up with anything, any new ways to kill an opponent, to do a finish or do a fatality or some stupid thing like that. And I was just thinking to myself, I could do better. And then one morning, the first image that just came to my mind was that scene from Looney Tunes, on that Warner Brothers, that Bugs Bunny cartoon, Long Haired Hair, the one with Giovanni Jones and Bugs Bunny pretending to be a conductor like Leopold. Leopold. So I figured I would just reference that, considering how he does like that hand gesture, which is mostly like levitation stuff. So I figured I would just poke fun at that, and that's kind of like where the idea came about. And also, it was kind of tricky to get the background characters to be properly aligned in unison to do the actual applause, because that part was tricky. I was going to do like the same thing with Shang Tsung in the background, but I decided not. It was a little too complex for me.
Ermac wins. Fatality.
So yes, I essentially treated this as I treated a martial arts tournament as a concerto. This is just my way of like giving back to the classic Looney Tunes. I don't know if Gen Z or Gen Alpha or Gen Beta still enjoy the old Looney Tunes, but that's the stuff that I grew up with, right? That's the crazy slapstick, the witty humor of that golden era of Looney Tunes. It still holds up to this day. So I highly recommend you check out the original Looney Tunes, because they never grow old.